Hello everyone and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming full moon in the sign of Aquarius taking place on the 19th of August 2024. Usually, I would say that this is not a very easy energy, but for this particular full moon, I think I have to say it in a different way where it is a very challenging and difficult to comprehend type of energy. So there it is, I said it. And the reason for this is, well, on one hand, if we just look at the full moon itself, it holds a T square. So not just the moon, but also the sun from the opposite sign Leo illuminating the full moon. So both of them do hold a square, an exact to the degree square, with the ruler of the full moon, Uranus. Now, if it wouldn't be Uranus, I would probably be able to give some kind of general guidance, something that would work with the planet specific. But with Uranus, the only thing I can say for certain is expect the unexpected, or surprise, surprise, or a good touch of chaos. But this in itself, a T square, or if we necessarily want to make it a grand cross, we can make it a grand cross. So a fixed grand cross is one of the most transformational, but at the same time most challenging energies in astrology, because it kind of breaks something down. Something that used to be stable long term, it used to benefit from longevity, or like a mountain, like the tower in tarot. It used to be fixed, it used to be stable, and it really doesn't matter if that is something real, something concrete, like a building, why not? Or it's something like a company, something that has been running for very, very many years, or something internal, a habit, a custom, something specific to us, a relationship, a part of our lives, something, it doesn't matter what it is, because this energy breaks it and it invites change. Either in a surprising way, right, Uranus, or in a hurricane, maelstrom, to call it whatever natural calamity you want kind of way, when it's without too much preparation, it is simply upon us, and all we can do is adapt. And adaptation is the other big keyword and theme here, because as I said, it's not just the full moon, but we have another T square, and that other T square is also very quite exact to the degree a mutable T square, where we at the same time have the Saturn and Jupiter square, which in itself, maybe from a karmic or a big collective perspective, is more potent, more important than the full moon itself. However, the full moon's energy is much more intense and bigger. So even if the full moon is something that really speaks to the present or the very close future, or something this year in that time frame, it really doesn't matter because the intensity is going to be really big. However, the Saturn and Jupiter square, of course, they have to include how we are adapting in the present moment to the collective and the personal turmoil and chaos and unexpected. And don't get me wrong, This can be a very positive, constructive, creational, work-oriented, career-oriented, building-oriented energy, and it can still feel like a massive storm hurricane, because we must not forget that all of this happens in Mercury retrograde, so things don't go as we want them, as we expect them, as we plan them. If it's something constructive, if you're building a project or something that you need to solve, it has a mind of its own. All you can do is adapt and follow and do your very, very best. It's a very positive energy. It's wonderful because it's building, but how it's getting there now, that feels like a roller coaster ride, or any kind of meme here where someone goes on a roller coaster ride or an extreme ride, which they were really not prepared. That's how it's gonna feel like. And because it's a mutable T-square as well as the fixed Grand Cross, how are we adapting? We need to find the best way to adapt. Saturn, that which is, on one hand, it respects our morality. It respects our soul and psychological profile. So it can't be something that is way too extreme for us. But at the same time, Jupiter in Gemini, it does need to be something different. And it does need to, how should I say, have in it a very balanced reality check where it's both hopeful but not in a very silly or illusionary way. So this energy is not an easy one, because Saturn and Jupiter together, they also speak about whatever has happened in our lives, what philosophical or inner transformational journey we have embarked on since December 2020, because that was the moment of their conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius, where Pluto is staying right now. So what happened in your life from 2020 until the present moment is also a massive theme of the Saturn and Jupiter square. How did your life change? How did your worldviews, your philosophies, your faith, your principles, who you resonate with and who you don't, all of this, how did this sense of belonging to the collective, or which part of the collective you belong to, or a sense of great rejection, what is it that you got out from, away from, stopped? So all of these big themes in our lives are going to be greatly highlighted, not just on the 19th, but I think all through the August. Why? Because the Jupiter and Saturn square is building up as we speak, even in the present moment when you're listening to this. So that is marking the big theme, as in, how did our changing, shifting worldviews transformed us, at least in one or more areas of our lives? Basically, when Saturn and Jupiter meet in the sky once every 20 years, but it doesn't really matter in which sign, it usually means a new paradigm or a new worldview opening before us, a new faith, a new way of looking at the world, a new way of going about things in philosophy, in higher thinking, for example. But it is always, always like an upgrade. Symbolically speaking, it's almost like when there is a game or computer program or whatever, and the next patch that upgrades, that fixes stuff, and then brings the new comes out, or a new expansion, if you will. So that happened invisibly for some people, or more visibly for other people in our lives, from 2020 onwards until the present moment. This square is a stop moment when we need to take into perspective everything that happened, how it changed us, and what it is that we want to do with all those changes, inner changes, for the future, close future, but also more long-term future of Pluto in Aquarius, right? So this is where what is real, what is not real to us, what is true, what is not true. How well do we know ourselves, especially our inner world, the unconscious, our shadow, Pisces? How well do we know our mind and our way of thinking, especially the lower mind, Gemini, with Mars and Jupiter in it? Because both of these, the unconscious and the lower mind, do determine our everyday reality and what it is that we experience every single day and moment in our lives. So if you, for example, if your big goal was to change a material situation, the way your relationship with money, let's say, your relationship with work, your relationship with career, your relationship with spirituality, whatever. This is a moment when you have a big reality check under this energy, and you decide what works, what we need to keep, what it is that we need to either eliminate or change or rearrange. And this energy has a super, very strong practical side to it. And now let me just highlight these planets because we're already analyzing it. And before I get to the full moon, I know the topic, the theme of the video is the full moon. But before I can get to it, I really need to highlight this about the Saturn and Jupiter square. Why? Because both of these energies are very exact, very precise, operating at the same time. And also, the full moon in Aquarius is more like a culmination, an outburst, a discharge, a shedding light on something. It is more immediate, especially with Uranus in it. But the Saturn and Jupiter square, that is which will stay in the background, especially because this square will repeat back in December. So that is like the base stone of all. The full moon in Aquarius is only like an artifact. It's only like an explosion, a moment of crescendo within the larger theme. So Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, sorry, where the first thing Jupiter does is it holds still a conjunction with Mars, and that conjunction is still quite potent and energetic and powerful because Mars is only 2 degrees away. So that's very close still. So Mars is a kind of active component in this T square. And why is this important? Well, Mars and Saturn are the two malefics. So chances are that within the T square, the larger term T square, that Saturn and Jupiter hold through this year, this is one of the more intense moments and one of the more reality really bites moment, because Mars is the lower malefic, Saturn is the greater malefic. Mars in Gemini, the tumultuous communication, the truth, the feedback, the criticism, the words, the negotiation, the dialogue, the battle, the war. Then Jupiter, as I said, truthfulness, justice, faith, belief, higher knowledge, the structure of all of this. But it also expands this Mars. It's urgent. We must adapt urgently to something. And here comes Saturn. Okay, but the adaptation needs to respect our morality, our past experiences, everything that who we know we are and is not susceptible to change, the permanent components of us. That is Saturn in the sign of Pisces, the unconscious and also karmic. It may come from previous lives. It may come from the realm of the soul. So parts of us that are not going to change because these come from spirit, straight from spirit. So our adaptation and change and efforts and strive, and even this can also be a conflict that we're having, even a conflict in the court of justice. But Jupiter, they need to respect our inner structures, those which are permanent and sacred Saturn. And Jupiter also comes because, don't get me wrong, Jupiter is one of the more potent planets here because it is the ruler of Pisces, right? So the ancient ruler of Pisces. So what it is that we have within us in the realms of the soul, our non-linear understanding, our soul knowledge matters very, 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 very much. Even though Jupiter is not comfortable in Gemini, because that big soul level knowledge has to be translated into something that we can use practically right now. And this is the challenge of the larger challenge. And then the third planet is none other than Venus in Virgo, not very comfortable. This is where she's not her idealistic, romantic, compassionate, magical self, but rather very, very down to earth, very realistic. So put her in the T square. It's really about realism because she opposes Saturn. So, but Venus is also in a rather important position, very uncomfortable, but it's still important that her discomfort, her frustration, her criticism, it's not good enough, not enough quantumly, as in the money is not enough, the resource, the power, the energy, the love, the beauty, the usefulness. If something is not enough, well, Venus opposes Saturn, right? So this is very harsh reality check. As in Saturn in Pisces, as I said, our permanent components, but that can be standards, specifics, that which we like, genetic things that we have in our lives, traits, let's say, genetic personality traits that are not gonna go anywhere, and opposition to Venus. We need to make those work, not be a burden. If they are a need, as in if something is not going anywhere, not going to change any in this incarnation, well, then that needs to be, its minimal requirements need to be always met for happiness, minimal happiness. This is what Venus tells us. And the opposition between the two planets, we need to find the right measure, right timing, Saturn. Sometimes this means patience. The world is burning around me, and or my, I don't know, work life, money life, career, love life, something important is up in the air, is chaos. I lost the ground below my feet. Totally. I'm drifting. How can you ask me to have patience? And sometimes life might ask you exactly there and then to have patience. You can see how this doesn't go well with the mutable energy, and this can exactly be the challenge of the mutability. Adapt, but this may be much slower than you are comfortable with, right? But the need, the chaos, the urgency, the immediacy, that's not slow. That's knocking on your door 24/7, yet you cannot do anything yet. You need to wait. And this wait can be real in the sense, not just like a divine timing on karmic, court date which you cannot change, a date that a professional, your plumbing, there, your toilet's broke, and the best under Mercury retrograde, we must not forget, the very, very best date someone could give you is in a week. You can imagine how that doesn't help you immediately at all, and you're asked to have patience, but you have needs every day. So how will you solve this? You will adapt to it. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you don't know what this means for the future. A humor, a good story, something. Be patient and you'll find out. So, and this is a very small example, because chances are in our lives this might be a bit big. So a big adaptation that we need to make. And we're being asked either to be patient, or we are not ready and we're asked to do it now and we know we are not ready. So that means a leap of faith, like it or not. Either way, the adaptation is not easy. But Mars and Venus square alone, as uncomfortable as it usually is, it's very, very productive many times. Because Mars in Gemini, we know that our intelligence is the key. And in Gemini, that can also represent not necessarily our own intelligence, but combined intelligence. Two heads are better than one. A friend, a colleague, an ally, a family member, a partner, an ex-partner, Mercury retrograde, someone. There are options, or research, study, even self-study before we take an action. That can also be. And then Venus and Virgo, she makes sure that it's up to standards and it really, really tries to fix the problem. Now, another thing that I would like to mention before I get straight to the full moon is that I'm not even sure how to say this not to sound a bit funny or superstitious, but I see that so very many asteroids or trans-Neptunian objects, so these dwarf planets, these minor influences, are gathering at this 19th of August, especially, either at 17 degree of even the involved signs, but other signs as well, or 27. There are so very many objects at these degrees that it blows my mind. So what does this mean? It's almost like the asteroids come to look at a show, to observe something. They want to spectate something. So this to me says there's something definitely big and karmic that's going to take place. And let me mention some of these objects that are closer to 17 degree. On one hand, we have asteroid Astrea at 17 degree of Virgo. I find this amazing because Virgo herself, the constellation, is the legend of Astrea. She was a deity of innocence, purity, uh, justice, fairness, etc., etc. A star maiden, virgin, of course, uh, and she lived amongst the mortals until the Iron Age, when she just couldn't take the soul filth that humanity kind of developed. And she had to go back to the sky, the constellation of Virgo, but she promised to come back one fated day and she'll bring the golden age when our hearts open up to greater love, okay? Now, her asteroid is in Virgo at that 17 degree. So what does this mean? She's part of the mutable T square. Yes, absolutely. But she kind of emphasizes Virgo. She emphasizes this sign, very much. So, what does this mean? For some people out there, and maybe even collectively, this is also a medical energy. Something that has to do with medicine, physical body, digestive tract, nourishment. On the world stage, we see famine, crisis, health crisis. So we understand Virgo very well, but Virgo is also work, labor. This is where slavery breaks. But remember the Venus opposing, so that means Astrea opposing Saturn as well. And in Pisces. So the modern slavery, not the classical slavery, which is against the law, the masked slavery. So there is going to be a massive uprising in workforce or workers, or not just like a strike or a protest, but something radical. Astrea, enough with a service that is no longer supported by the universe. Okay, so another energy is at 19 degrees, so very close, still opposing Saturn, is asteroid Hecate. Hecate loves being in Virgo because the medicine woman, the wise woman, plant medicine. So this is also about healing, but Hecate is also prophecy, foresight, divination. So this is where something, we cannot see it. Something is unseeable even with the eyes of the spirit, because opposing Saturn, the veil is not going to be lifted. It comes as a shock, as a surprise for something we cannot be ready for. But Hecate is also a nurturer. I wanted to say mother, but mother in the sense of matriarch. Not that she is a mother of someone, but she's a mother to all, like Persephone or the souls of the dead. She guides them. She seeks out lost souls, her dogs, her sacred animals. This is definitely one of her sides, Virgo. So, yes, there's that. And Gemini also has, and this is a trans-Neptunian object at 17th degree of Gemini, so conjunct Jupiter, Phaeton or Phaeton, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it, the son of Helios, who insisted that the only thing he desires from his father as his birthright is for one day to steer the chariot of the sun. And his father couldn't convince him out of this. He went on the journey. It was so catastrophic, and his steering caused so many calamities, like patches of permafrost or deserts overnight, where either he burned, scorched the earth, or he froze it, and he also disrupted the course of the stars. So after many complaints, Zeus had no choice but to shoot him down with his lightning bolt, and he died instantly. So what does his legend tell us? Well, with this Mars and Jupiter conjunction, on one hand, the wise choice either is to not rush something when you're not ready, even if the opportunity to presents itself, as in do not fear losing the opportunity if you know full well that you cannot do it. But this is the wise cannot do it. This is not bad self-talk or not believing in yourself. You know that you cannot do something. For example, you have a back injury. You're not gonna lift I don't know what kind of weights because you cannot do it, and that's not gonna go anywhere. So maybe this legend of Phaeton will require from you to, how should I say, maybe you lifting something is a big opportunity that gets you somewhere. Instead of seizing the opportunity, you go to a physiotherapist or whatever. They get you like a support device for your back, maybe a very expensive one. Uranus in the sign of Taurus, right? And Venus in the sign of Virgo, but you can go and lift it. And there it is, the impossible became possible. But as I said, the chaos of it, this and the mutable energy, Gemini, this can also play out the other way around, where you only think that you're not capable of something. Out of the blue, there's a job interview for the job of your dreams, but you don't believe in yourself anymore. You're over that. It's no longer a valid dream. But this is where it's too good to miss out, and you're not prepared. You don't believe in yourself anymore, but you go and try it because at the end of the day, there's truly nothing to lose but a bit of embarrassment, you know? There's that situation. In that situation, you immediately, urgently need to take the risk and go and do it. But you see where all of these planets can help us evaluate the situation correctly. Despite the fact that a part of this energy in any and every case is also like the gut feeling, like the instinctual knowledge that just where you know it's not even intuition, it's like how animals just know things, that animalistic type of knowledge. Because Neptune is aneretic, retrograde, so everything is under a let's say a certain kind of mist, a mist of confusion. So what does that mean? Maybe we cannot rely upon very strong facts and figures, neither the opinion, the 100% opinion that will be correct of anyone, even professionals. We have to rely very heavily on our gut, instinctual gut feeling, because anything else external might be true or not, because this Neptune really makes us not be able to trust anything, not even facts and figures. However, then the gut feeling is that much more trustworthy. Another energy, going back to Phaeton's example. So sometimes we have to rush in it, even if we are not ready. Other times we need to step back and, do the right thing. So, but sometimes divine protection is when the universe stops us in our course insistingly. So if the universe insists for you to not go a certain place, not do something, I think we should listen. And other celestial objects that are rather at 27 degree of their signs, because 27 degree is very much about the full moon. So that's directly the full moon. So one is the trans-Neptunian object who holds the Grand Cross, who perfects the Grand Cross. So, sorry, not there. Here. She is called Ceto, the primordial goddess of everything that has to do with the sea and the depths, but also the creator of Cetus type of sea monsters. A symbol of the power of the unconscious, especially that is in the sign of Scorpio, the all-devouring abyss, but at the same time, the all-creational unknown. It can be both a sign of grateful fertility, where the unknown is born, so that means we don't have all that much power over it, but it can also represent the devouring nature of it, where the deeps just claim anything and everything. So this can be even the depth of the abyss. Another 27 degree is very close to Uranus, and it's called Alicanto. This is also a trans-Neptunian object, a mythical, great, magical bird. Aviation, Uranus. Oh, okay, Uranus and Jupiter in their own ways rule aviation, but Mercury, who is part of the fixed Grand Cross as well, rules the travel itself. So we already know that something either falls from the sky or there is some news communication, something reaching about aviation. Now, something that I heard very recently is that uh, the Boeing space shuttle was scheduled to retrieve the astronauts from the International Space Station around the 18th of August, and it got postponed to a date in September. I can't remember which. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm so happy. Thank goodness. Because what a bad ride that would have been on the 18th of August, one day before the full moon. And these small objects are still in the T-square. And everything points to the fact that it's very bad for aviation. So I see that postponing as a big saving grace. But let's see what other things happen. Breakdown in technology. Uranus Mercury square. Technology is going to be very unreliable. Again, this points to something to do with aviation, because the other planet that has to do with aviation, Jupiter, why? Because it rules Sagittarius. Long flight, space travel. That's very Sagittarian and T-square, right? If Sagittarius is the starry sky, then Gemini is the lower atmosphere, which is very close to the ground. So this may represent falling. Remember Ceto in the sign of Scorpio. Okay, it's not part of Gemini, but it's part of the Uranus opposition. Ceto opposing Uranus. Uranus is technology. Ceto devours it, or malfunction, or the sea devours something. If we want to include Saturn in Pisces, ships sinking or conflict at sea, which is already playing out in the world on the world stage. So, oh my goodness. Then let's move on. And this, you know her. I'm very sure that my audience knows her. She's here. Another 27-degree object is Vesta, and she is tightly conjunct the sun, and let's say Mercury in the sign of Leo. Youth, sacredness of youth, the sacredness of the inner child. But why am I pointing to youth? Well, let's just name it, students. So there is a big news, big moment with students. The Bangladeshi student movement, they overthrew the minister, if I'm not mistaken, or they overthrew the head of something. Uranus conjunct Algol, right? So something is, again, with students, with youth, with young people, children, because Vesta is protector of the household and family, goddess of the sacred flame. So this is an urgent cry out for protection. Let's protect, and we'll see how this. So Vesta, but Vesta also adds the heart to the fire. Whatever we are fighting for, in collectively, individually, whatever, that really sparks up the heart of our, the flames of our heart, the compassion within our hearts. So Vesta, being together with the sun, this is so symbolic. So for the name of compassion, we get this, and now there's another asteroid at 26th degree of Taurus, so also conjunct Uranus. Magdalena, so Mary Magdalene, patron saint of plant medicine, herbs, nature, plants in nature is what the healing power of nature, the wisdom of nature is what I wanted to say. So this to me says that there is going to be something about drugs, very dangerous drug or lethal substance. But Mary Magdalene can also be a saving grace, a solution to something, an alternative solution, or a female figure doing something extraordinary, something amazing, something groundbreaking. And last but not least, there's asteroid, not Black Moon Lilith, but rather asteroid Lilith at 28 degrees of Scorpio, our sexual urges, etc., etc. And there is another sexual trans-Neptunian object, but that's further away, Lampo at 26 degrees. So this is also about sexual scandal, sexual whatever, revelation, or coming out, who did what, rape cases, and that causes big outrage. So there's going to be a big outrage because of something sexual, or technology that blackmails people with fake sexual, deep fake pornography, or so there's going to be massive problems due to that. Disruptions, scandals, fights, court battles, and tragedies. Because you can imagine a naive person when they see a con email that I have your indecent images, they can resort to, because of that shock and fear, they will not tell anyone. They will resort to, and in the UK, there have been so very many cases where like teenagers did horrible things to themselves, as in, let's name it, ended their lives because of some internet scam, some of which was not even real. The scammers didn't have anything really. In some cases, the scammers did create some deep fake with images and stuff like that. Okay, but you can imagine how for young people that is something maddening. So we must be really, really careful. And also to warn young people that these are going on, and also to warn young people that in case something like this happens, they're blackmailed or whatever, they can talk to anyone good-willed, really, their parents, or there is someone who they can talk to and that can genuinely help. So yeah, now let's truly get to the full moon in Aquarius. But you already know, because you can already deduce from the T-square and everything I said until this present moment that it's shocking, it's surprise, surprise, it's about the future, it's about the collective, the community, people. Aquarius, how we feel. And moon in Aquarius is politics, but not necessarily the world of politics, but more like the actual strategy, philosophy, the politics running their course as we speak. News about that, feeling about that, shocking developments, news by Mercury about science, technology, internet. There might be a big disruption in internet, a massive cyber attack or internet warfare. So something is very, very shocking. Also, we know because of the Sun and Mercury conjunction and Vesta that the youth students, children, their symbolism is involved. We also know that something really shocks the heart, provokes massive reaction from the heart and heart space. We also know from Uranus, T-square, that it will kick us out of our comfort zone. It's going to be shocking. It will need us to adapt to something, or to put something really genuine, truthful, authentic to the table, because that's the solution and it's a bit extreme. Then we also know from Uranus's opposition, hence the Grand Cross, with either Ceto or asteroid Lilith, doesn't matter which of the two we want to include here, that it might be something, if it's not something sexual necessarily for a person individually, it can be something like a health problem or a deception, a lie coming from various sources, circle of friends, neighbors, you know, in life generally. So it also has a touch of dirty or dirt or backstabbing or something like that in it. That can also be the theme of the past, where something happened in the past, something like, as I said, backstabbing or whatever below the belt, and now is being clarified, Mercury retrograde. So this can be deeply karmic as well. And to complicate things, the full moon is the moon is exactly on fixed star Gienah or Gienah, I'm not sure how to pronounce the neutral fixed star, which says soaring to great heights. This also points to aviation and the potential of sudden downfall. You see, this is also surprise, surprise. Something that is promising fails. And this might be very symbolic of a new invention, new release, new launch date, and Mercury retrograde destroys it, basically. But this can also be leader. This can be something that maybe triggers again the political turmoils in the United States, basically all over the world. And last but not least, the Sabian symbol of this full moon. A tree felled, so a tree that has fallen and that's already been processed and then sawed up and put away. This Sabian symbol says, well, it can say more than one thing, actually. Well, one is the opportunism. Let's say if you'd live on the countryside, in a village, when a tree falls, well, people are not going to let it go to waste. They will use it as either firewood, the Sabian symbols example, or they can saw it up into larger pieces, built. They use up resources. So naturally, this may suggest that something falls like a, how should I say? Because I don't want to cause panic. Like an institution, or like a government, or like even the constitution of a state. But put this in personal life, something that usually represents a very, very stable part of your life, a tree. Something that is susceptible to growth, usually delivers fruits, or is something stable, rooted, grounded, and so something falls and you make good use of it. So the falling of something frees up a lot of resources and gives options and freedom and preparation for the coming cycle, the winter. You know what I mean? But it can also represent diligence. It can also represent foresight. Someone cuts up a tree because they know the winter is fast approaching and the wood is gonna be very, very useful. So either way, this highlights the Saturnian nature of Aquarius. Foresight, diligence. If life gives us resources, let's use them, regardless of when it gives us. Because this energy can be for some people a too late type of energy. You already gave up on something, right? You moved on, and it comes into your life almost wrapped up in a with a pink ribbon on it, and it shocks you. Well, I'm on one hand, well, I moved on already. It may have been a big dream of mine, or what goal or project or whatever, but if I accept it now, or if I use it, it's more of a burden than anything, because I will have to give up probably my present journey or what happened after I moved on. You can imagine this is at crossroads, even if it's the most beautiful thing that ever happened, a Saturn Jupiter square. Do I say thank you, God? I'm overjoyed, but I don't want this anymore. Or do I say thank you, God? I'm gonna go with it. So what? Either way, it's a life-changing and delicate choice. Delicate choice, because it will reshape your life one way or another. So this is a too late energy, but this can also be where I I just barely had the epiphany, and what a wonderful solution it would be, but I don't have it planned out at all. I just know the big pic, and it immediately falls into my lap. But what do I do with it? I don't know anything. I'm not prepared. So it can be so, but this can be, as I said, shocking news, secret, sexual stuff, your own sexuality out of the blue. Maybe you have certain fantasies, or you meet a person you never ever thought you will ever encounter in this incarnation ever again. Someone from the past, or your ex changed 180 degree where you don't even recognize them, and maybe you say, oh my goodness, I might give you a chance like this, or something shocks, something really changes around the balance of our lives. So individually speaking, especially if you have something at around 27 degree of the fixed, so Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Leo, it might hit very hard, depending on what planet, what personal planet you have there, and what's it doing. It might hit really, but even for, let's say, for people for whom none of the above mentioned planets speak to anything personal, whatever happens collectively might shock them a great deal and might make them think seriously about their future choices. I'm so sorry to say this, but in some parts of the world, the ongoing wars will really make certain people think, what future do I have here or there? So you can, but this can adapt it to any way, shape, and form. So this is gonna be a big energy. So this is why I might or might not, depending on how things evolve, make an update video to this one to see how things are unfolding. Because as I said, before this Aquarius full moon, the Saturn and Jupiter square is getting closer and closer to perfection, because its perfection is also roughly the same this 19th of August. So two simultaneously important and very tense energies combine at the same time. So we'll see how it plays out and what happens. The guidance is you really, really need to embrace that inner gut type of your instincts, your deepest instincts, and the deepest truth in your heart, because that might be the only reliable thing under this energy. And of course, we must stay out of the doom and gloom and the victim mentality and look at everything that happens as an option, as a resource, especially the sapient symbol. The tree which has fallen needs to be used up. So it doesn't matter what falls, it can still be used up. So thank you everyone for listening, and I really hope this was useful. And until next time, bye for now.